Good morning, and thanks so much for tuning in. Happy Monday to you. This is Stocks to Watch on BloombergQuint, and I'm Mathew. There are going to be a few key names in focus in trade today, and we're going to be speaking about three of them. My guest this morning is Avinash Gorakshakar of Profit Mart Securities. Thank you so much for joining me, Avinash, and good morning to you. The first stock that I want to talk to you about is HDFC Bank. It's a big one in the banking space. It came out with results over the weekend, and perhaps there was just a little bit of sentimentality associated with this earnings because it was the last one that was presided over by Aditya Puri. What did you make of the numbers? Is the asset quality still a concern? And how confident are you that there's going to be a smooth leadership transition?
Yeah, good morning, Alex. I think first on the numbers, Alex. I think the numbers presented by HDFC Bank on the weekend were definitely very strong. I think what was very important is that asset quality has been very healthy. Most importantly, if you look at the loan book growth, a good strong 16%, and I think the retail lending book has improved significantly. In fact, it has more or less touched pre-COVID levels. In fact, the management was very hopeful and positive on the auto as well as the housing finance book, which they believe would is also seeing a very healthy traction. I think on the management commentary side, I think it was very strong. In fact, Mr. Aditya Puri clearly mentioned that a new team is in place
Okay.
and clearly going significantly better than what the street is expected. So I think these numbers should definitely enthuse the markets, and I think numbers are much better than the street expectations.
Would you buy though? Would you buy fresh HDFC Bank? I know a lot of people were talking about ICICI Bank and Axis, but HDFC Bank, out of the three private sector large ones, was not coming to the conversation as much. Would you buy at this stage?
Yeah, definitely, Alex. I think from a longer term perspective, the bank has delivered very well. In fact, on a higher base, the profit has improved, the asset quality has come down, and I think over the next 2 quarters, I'm pretty confident that you could see a much stronger growth coming in, because this was a challenging quarter. But despite that, HDFC Bank has delivered something very strong, and I think they clearly mentioned, the management stated that they used this COVID period to actually enhance their operational efficiency and actually deliver better numbers than what the street expected, and I think this is reflected in the numbers. So definitely, I think today, if you get a chance to buy it, one should definitely look at it. I would not be surprised that we could see a decent risk reward over the next, say, 12-15 months. Hopefully FY22 would be a much stronger year compared to FY21.
Okay, speaking of companies that have been in focus in the past, and DMart, of course, at one point of time you were talking about it as being one of the most expensive counters that is listed in India. It's come out with its results as well, Avinash, and perhaps just a tad bit below estimates. The revenues came down at 11%. At 5,306, net profit down about 38% to just under 200 crore rupees. I think the estimate consensus was 240 crores. But I think the biggest letdown must have been on the margin front, which came in at 6.2%. Consensus estimates were closer to 6.6%. And that compares with the last or the previous figure of 8.6%. So obviously, that pandemic is still affecting them significantly. But interestingly, DMart available at quite a discount to its all-time high. Would you say that this is a good opportunity to buy?
Alex, I think first of all, it would be wrong to compare the YY numbers now if you look at the Q2
Yeah.
performance, because this has been a very abnormal kind of quarter. So I think it is better, and I think logical enough to compare the sequential quarter. And I think if you see the sequential quarter, that is quarter one and then quarter two, there's been a significant improvements in the top line and in the bottom line. In the first quarter, I think the profits were roughly 50 crores, and this time it's about 200 crores plus. So I think operationally, things are gradually improving. The belief that the third and the fourth quarter could possibly see a further improvement. And I think they have opened 6 stores, in this, COVID-19 pandemic. So I think clearly the company has spent about 650 crores as capex in the first half. So my sense is that the stock may not go down significantly, but of course the markets have already discounted this negative performance, and I think they would be pleased to see that now a large portion of their business is now going to come from e-com activity, which was one of the lagging kind of businesses for DMart. So I think
Mm.
considering the fact that e-commerce is now going to be in focus, plus the management making efforts to make a very decent kind of contribution from this segment, the stock could actually show a decent rise in today's trading session. And I think it's a great opportunity one looks at the next 2 to 3 years. DMart is not a stock which one could buy for the short term, but longer term, I think the markets are pretty confident that once this COVID-19 scenario passes by, the company can bounce back. So I think numbers are pretty decent on a sequential basis, and we'll have to await for the next 1 or 2 quarters. But definitely, YOY is not a kind of time period to compare this performance.
Okay, clearly we'll have to speak perhaps in a couple of weeks about the very long-term prospects of DMart when competition heats up in that space. But I want to talk about the third stock, Avinash, which is Prestige Estate Projects. And we heard over the weekend that there could be a deal. They've signed a non-binding agreement with Blackstone, where Blackstone is going to buy some of their properties, which include commercial offices, retail, and hotel properties. Bloomberg did a story just before the weekend that said that the deal could be in the range of $2 billion. How significant do you think this would be for Prestige Estates projects, and what would this mean for both existing and prospective investors of Prestige Estate projects?
No, I think Prestige Assets is a well-known property developer in Bangalore, and I think this news about Blackstone putting in capital and buying out some of their properties is definitely good news, Alex, because it gives a decent dose of liquidity. And I think in these pandemic times, when companies actually have been running low on liquidity, I think this would give them a decent amount of breathing power to fight out in the real estate market. And frankly, Prestige is one of the quality premium developers in Bangalore. So I would not be surprised that you could see a decent amount of re-rating in the stock here, considering that not only liquidity but the comfort of these foreign investors is there on this company. Our sense is that real estate will continue to be in focus, considering the fact that affordable segment, the mid segment would definitely see a good rise. So I think all in all, I think one could take a longer term view on the company, considering that these kind of investors would obviously bolden the retail and the institutional investors, and the stock has corrected significantly from its highs. So net, I think it's a good opportunity to accumulate if one has a medium to long term.
Okay, since we're early on this particular day, and there's a lot of audio feedback, but I very quickly want to ask you, Avinash, do you have any other names that you want to speak about, that you want to tell our viewers about?
I think clearly my sense is that in this second quarter you could also see most of the companies operating in the rural India segment doing well, especially two-wheeler segments or maybe even the FMCG segments. I think we have seen very good numbers from Bajaj Consumer in the previous week, and that could embolden bigger players like Godrej Consumer, a Dabur here. And as far as the rural pockets are concerned, I think Mahindra, or for that reason, Hero MotoCorp, these are names which I think would definitely go up, considering that the volume data growth in two-wheelers is significant. So I think
Right.
Alex, you could look at these stocks from a medium-term perspective.
Interestingly, a lot of them we've spoken about on this very program. Thanks so much, Avinash, for joining me today, and have a lovely day. To you, dear viewer, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope the stocks that we discussed today benefit you going forward. Thanks so much for tuning in once again. Do stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up in just a short while on Bloomberg Quint.